that. Super excited that you guys decided to join us today. Just go ahead and type where you guys are calling in from. Go ahead and type where you guys are calling in from. I'm really excited for today's call. It's such an amazing thing to really have you all tuning in. And I know we've had the concerns of, I believe it's daylight savings time around the world. So for some of us, time has gone forward, and we're still operating on the time behind. It's always shocking when you have to adjust to the time, right? And that's why this call today is so amazing to me. It's so powerful to me just to have this dialogue with you all. I'm super excited about it because it's been on my mind for some time. And I said, I want to dive in some studies in regards to why we should have this discussion, why we should have this call. I want to go ahead and make sure that we have a call that's totally set the right way. So let me set this thing up for you guys. I'm super excited about it. I'm fired up. I got a lot of energy. And the thing about energy is how you take care of yourself, right? You really want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. We're in a different time frame now, ladies and gentlemen. We have to be a little bit more diligent about how we take care of ourselves. What are we taking to make sure that we're healthy? What are we taking to make sure that we're fired up? And one of the things with me, I'm big on how am I taking care of myself, because I know that it's inevitable for an end for everyone, right? But in the process, are you healthy? What are you doing? What kind of supplements are you taking? What kind of herbs are you taking? And I pride myself in making sure that I take the right things to continue to keep the energy going, so that I can continue to move, so that I can continue to study, and I work with a lot of different individuals, a lot of partners, and associates that always will say, "Hey, recommend this. Why don't you test this? Why don't you try this? Why don't you research this, boss, and see if this is good for you, see if this is good for your family." And you can then go ahead and impart that upon on individuals who are challenging themselves to be more healthy, like eating on more of a plant-based diet, supplementing from medicine to herbs. I take a lot of herbs. There's a particular group that I do a lot of work with. They're called Magic Mind. They're amazing with the energy that they provide in some of their supplements, right? And it's one of the most beautiful things. So I always tell people, I said, listen, you might want to plug in. Go ahead and connect with my friends, because they have the right supplements for you that will help you to continue the vitality. So when you start feeling a little lethargic and you're dragging, you want to know that, am I doing the right thing? When you get around people, people may not be taking care of themselves, right? So a lot of the times you run into situations where their illness can come on you. So you want to always make sure your immune system is boosted up. And that's what this group and my friends do for me. They're like, listen, check out what we got over at Magic Mind. So I urge you guys, I said, listen, guys, you should check it out too. They're definitely a powerful group in the things that they do for me. They have an Instagram site for you to check out. You can go to their sites. It's www.magicmind.com. It's amazing with the herbs that they provide in some of their shots. They got these little shots that we take, and it's so amazing. Tastes really good. And I'm big on taste, right? Can I get herbs that taste good, that I don't have to spit up? Even though I take the ones that, it may not taste good, for them, they did a phenomenal job. But guys, as we jump into this, I want you guys to get your pen and pads, and I want you to invite your friends and everyone else to this call today. It's really important for us to understand the call today that we're having. It's called the power of now. So write it down. The power of now. The dialogue today is the power of now. It's very important for us to have this dialogue, right? And I'm hoping that I can get through it, because I know we've shifted on time and everything else. And I have my notes in front of me, because I got so much notes. I'm going to reference my notes a lot because of this. I got my little book here that I always write with. Thank you for the missus to always make sure that, well, hey, you need these little pads because you just don't take the big books around enough, right? So it's always a really good thing. But write it down, ladies and gentlemen, the power of now. Very important. And then I want you guys to take a second and think to yourself, what does it mean when we talk about the power of now to you? Somebody, type it in the chat. What does it mean when we talk about the power of now? What does that mean to you? Just for a second, think about that. Type it in the chat. What does it mean when we talk about the power of now? What does that mean to you? Just kind of think about that for a second. What does that mean when we hear the power of now, right? Because that is very important, right? That's right. That's right. You know what I mean? Come on, folks, because I know most of you are out there, whether you're in YouTube land, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're in a Clubhouse, you're there. And I want you guys to be more interactive. I want to make sure that this is a learning process. This is extremely important, right? When we start talking about the power of now, this is very important, right? Now, I want to break down this in a few components, right? Now, one of the things about the power of now, when we hear about this, right, the power of now, it says that the power of now, what it states is that living in the now is the most authentic path to happiness and enlightenment. So living in the now is the most authentic path to happiness and enlightenment. So here's a few key lessons that I got when I was listening to this. It says living in the present, as you should write it down. Living in the present moment means to no longer worry, or you're stop worrying about what happened in the past and not fearing what will happen in the future. I want to make sure you get that, right? I'll say that again. Living in the present moment means no longer worrying about what happens in the past and not fearing what will happen in the future. When we start talking about the power of now, I want to make sure you get that, because it's very important for us to understand when we start talking about the power of now. Now, how do you explain such a thing when you start hearing, well, the power of now? How do I explain that? I'm hearing that, but how do I explain that? How does that really work for me? Now, see, for me, an individual should be aware of their present moment. You should be aware of your present moment instead of losing yourself in worry and anxiety about the past or the future. I want to make sure you get that. Worry about the present moment. That's what an individual should do instead of losing yourself and worrying, having anxiety over your past and your future. See, according to studies, when I was researching this, it said only the present moment is real. Only the present moment is real. Only the present moment matters. That's what's real, and that's what matters. And both, right? And both is an individual. The past and the future, they're created through your thoughts. Both past and future are created through your thoughts. Now, we already know, or we've heard, that your thoughts, right, are things that come to fruition when you think them. So that past and that future will come from your thoughts. But so right now, we need to worry about the now. This is what it's really saying. Only the present moment is real. That is very important for everyone to understand. Only the present moment is real. Now, I want to jump for a second, right? Because you get a lot of people saying this. So I want to jump for a second. I want to go somewhere for a second. You get a lot of people like to say this. So let's talk about that for a second. People say that time isn't linear. I hear that. I hear that. A lot of people say time isn't linear. And I was just telling you that the present moment is what matters, right? So you'll hear people talk about time isn't linear. Now, what is linear time, right? What is linear time? People say time isn't linear. What is linear time? Well, linear time is that it's perceived by humans as a referral point or a reference point that has a beginning and an end. That is what linear is, linear time. It's a referral point or a reference point that has a beginning and an end. Now, when you look at a beginning and an end, and then you're talking about right now, we have to live in the moment. What does that mean? What does time being linear means, right? What does it mean, right? That linear time is perceived by humans, as I said, that reference point. So now you have the beginning was yesterday, that started at a certain time, but now ended at a particular time. So yesterday was, say, 12 a.m. or 11:59 p.m. And now we're moving into another time frame, which would now be 12 a.m. tonight, wherever you may be, right? So then it's a start and it's a finish. So why does time seem linear? Why does it seem linear when we start talking about linear time, right? See, time is only a reflection of change. Time is only a reflection of change, right? So I need you to make sure you understand that it's a change of our brain's construct and the sense of time as it flows, because our brain is registering that there is something that happened, something that started, and now that thing that started is no longer, that thing has ended. So that's when we talk about linear. Linear is passing from a past through a present to a future. That's linear. Now you got people that says time isn't linear. Now, before I go back to answering that concept of time isn't linear, and I just talked to you about linear time, right? I want to jump back in to when we are talking about the present moment of the power of now. We said, what is the moral of the power of now? Now let's look at let's explain the power of now for a second. Let's do that, right? And I talked about when you look at the power of now, we want to do, for me, as I said, an individual should be aware of their present moment, right? That's what we talked about. And then what is the moral of the power of now? And you should write this down. What is the moral of the power of now? What is the moral of the power of now? Now, I said, the power of now, it offers a specific method of putting an end to suffering. I want you to understand this. The power of now, it offers a specific method of putting an end to suffering and achieving inner peace. That's what the power of now does. It puts that end to suffering. What is the suffering? The thoughts that's being brought up or conjured up and constantly going of your past. And the thought that is constantly moving and going about your future. So the power of now, it puts an end to that suffering, right? And now you're achieving inner peace because you're operating in real time, the now, by living fully in the present and now separating yourself from your mind. Now, I know right now somebody's saying, hold on now. We're talking about separating yourself from your mind. See, my studies also teach me a person can detach themselves, right, from their mind, and detach themselves, your mind being that ego, right? Listen carefully. Your mind being that ego, a part of your mind that seeks control over your thinking and your behavior. Now, let me tell you why that's so important for me, because I had to do a lot of soul searching over the last year and especially over the last months, because I had to understand that the power of now is where I must always operate in and nothing else. Because, see, I was studying so hard on my biblical principles, I had to step out and see what the principles of philosophy and science and physics was saying, so that I can go ahead and make reference points that how I will be better healed and grow as a leader, as an individual, how I can better serve, what is really affecting me that is affecting others, that's contagious to the world, but we normally don't see it. See, I had to realize I had to separate myself from my mind. So when I separated myself from my mind, now I can actually listen in to my mind as a third party. Ooh, somebody probably ain't getting that. See, when you separate yourself from your mind, and that part of your mind that is your ego, that seeks control over your thinking and behavior, somebody is hearing me right now. So when we like to say we don't have ego, oh, we all have ego. Oh, you got a whole lot of ego more than me. See, at one point, I didn't really understand the depth of ego. See, I didn't really understand the depth of ego. See, this was pushed and clarified to me on one perspective through family conversation, interior personal conversation, that I dialogue with the missus. But then in deeper research, I realized, wow, even that individual who acts easy, who acts calm. We're all in the same boat. Now, I may have been more flashy or flamboyant or whatever it may be, or some of us may be that. But guess what? We're all in the same boat because I'm telling you, it's the part of the mind that seeks control over your thinking and your behavior. So you have to separate yourself from your mind. If you guys are with me, go ahead and put some ones in the chat. If you guys are with me, put some ones in the chat. If you're with me, put some ones in the chat. Put some ones in the chat. So, what is the power of now saying? See, it's really, what is it saying when we're talking about that? It's like realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. See, this isn't just something that you should say, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. This is how and what you must do to be in a position of peace and harmony that will open you to receive the downloads that is coming from the Creator, that is coming from the universe that was created to serve us. But you can't get those downloads if you got a whole lot of jibber jabber going on. Meaning you got a whole lot of, let me give you an example of what we all got going on. Have you ever driven in a city that they have all these highways and byways and express lanes going above and down and everything? And have you ever sat at home and see it on the sky cam from the helicopter, how busy it looks and everything is just moving, just moving? That's what's happening up here for most of us. Now, when things are happening in that manner, I want you to ask yourself right now, how am I able to receive what I need to receive if my mind is so busy? If my mind is always on go? If my mind doesn't have a stop sign? I'm hoping somebody's following. I'm hoping somebody's following. I'm hoping somebody's following. Because so we got to separate ourselves so that we can then be on the sidelines, so to speak, and then listen in. And then when you start listening, you get into a space where, you're playing the connect the dots, and then you're able to separate, okay, that doesn't go there. Ooh, or you're playing Scrabble. Ooh, I'm about to put that there. That doesn't go there. You remove it. Because why? You're on the outside looking in versus on the inside trapped by whatever walls you put up. So now you're doing this like a crab in a barrel in a pose up from the exterior, holding your hands and just looking to play the move. So now you're playing chess, operating in the power of now. Are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? So now you're playing chess, operating the time in that power of now. See, it says time isn't precious with the power of now. This is what it says, right? And that's why I went to you guys about linear. With the power of now, it talks about time isn't precious at all because it's an illusion. Now, in my studies, when I read that and I dived down, I see where they were going. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. First, let me tell you, where they were going, they're going in a place for you to understand that you should not put time as the gatekeeper in front of you that will lock you down from acting. I want to make sure somebody gets this. I want to make sure somebody gets this. Do not put time as the gatekeeper in front of you that will lock you down, that will lock you up. So now you cannot move because you're under restraint, you're under bondage. So when people hear that, when they said time isn't precious at all because it's an illusion, see, if care is not taken and if you didn't study well enough, you will misread that and you'll get annoyed. So what do you mean time is not precious? And for those who are looking on the other end to say, they're absolutely right, time isn't precious. No, see, this is not where they were going. Because I need you to understand how important this is. You cannot say time isn't precious and mean it in the way, in a derogatory state. You cannot say time, right, isn't linear and not give the components and the building blocks to what your ideology of isn't linear is. See, the thing is we should never read on one side of the scope without reading everything. So that when we listen and when we put it together, we're able to approach it in a better way. So when someone says time isn't linear, when they're talking about time isn't linear, I told you what linear time was. They're saying that time isn't linear. It's not it's literally an illusion. That's what they're saying. They're saying time is an illusion, right? And because they said time is an illusion, now for those who believe in time, they're saying, I don't know what that person is talking about. But see, that's not what you need to say to them. See, you need to study and understand why that statement is being said. Because even if they didn't know why they're saying it, or they perceive their ideology is the way based on studies that they have done, then you can show them many other ways and their way to where the conclusion they came to, you understand it and it's correct, but have they considered all these other ways? If somebody's with me, put one in the chat. If somebody's with me, put one in the chat. Now, I need you to understand why I'm saying what I'm saying when we're talking about the power of now. I need you to understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. Because when we look at time being linear and time, someone saying time isn't linear, I need you to understand when we operate in the power of now, if we're operating in the power of now, there is no such thing in the power of now when you go deep in studies and say time isn't linear. Why? Why am I saying this? Now, let's look at this from a scientific standpoint, and then we'll look at it from a spiritual standpoint for a second, because this is how you get ahead. This is how you operate in your power of now. This is how you grow in your power of now. See, the thing is, when you look at it from a physicist and a standpoint of science, is that if we look at the structure of what they look and say as the universe, then it operates in a space that is of time and a space that operates outside of time. I'm hoping somebody's following me. See, in the planetary system, everything operates on a systemic setup in a clockwise operation. So then when it operates in a clockwise operation, it's operating on a time slot in a clockwise operation in a linear movement, but then there is some aspect that is outside of that which is it's happening and how it's operating that is beyond. So then you got to look at what is the perspective when we talk about linear time and how do we operate in the power of now. Now, I'm going somewhere because I want to make sure you guys are following me. I'm going somewhere with this. I want to make sure you guys are following me because this is why the power of now is so powerful. Because now you got the physics and the scientific construct of how it is, but then look at the spiritual construct of how it is. It says, what does God think about time? When you start talking on the spiritual construct, the question of God relation to time. See, you got to understand his relation to time is that he created time. When you look at traditional views on this, has been that God is timeless. He is timeless. He operates outside of time, but he created time and put us in time. Now, I need you to understand how important this is when we start talking about linear, not linear, and the power of now. I need you to understand this. When we talk about time is not linear, listen to this. We're talking about a higher spiritual aspect. When we talk about time being linear, we're talking about a physical aspect. Because that which is physical has a beginning and an end. Ooh, I'm hoping somebody's following me. And that which is beyond physical, that exists in the physical, that is higher than the physical, is operating outside of time. So when someone is speaking and says time isn't linear, then I am not upset because I understand the studies and the principle behind what is being said. So what you do is then, if that is what's happening, then you seek to find out. Now, why am I teaching this? Why am I speaking on this? It is because the same principle that what someone will say time isn't linear, it applies to the spiritual teaching in principle when it says, live for today, for tomorrow will take care of itself. The power of now. Come on, somebody. Are you guys following me? Are you guys following me? Because, see, you got to understand there's two things happening simultaneously when we're talking about the power of now. There's two things happening simultaneously when we're talking about the power of now. So, the power of now, when we operate in the power of now, we leave the space of physical belief and we move into the space of spiritual belief. So when someone is telling me I'm in my higher self, when someone is telling me that I have grown, my consciousness and my awareness have grown, I don't get annoyed. When someone is telling me that I have grown beyond the thoughts that you can think, I don't get annoyed because it's not beyond the thoughts that I can think. All it is that there was an awakening, an unlocking, a spiritual unlocking that happened. So check this out. This unlocking that happened was literally a recognition, a realization to now, wow, I am now operating in faith, not by sight. I'm hoping somebody's with me. I'm now operating in faith, not by sight. So guess what happens? A person studying in a space of science and consciousness will reference it to such. And a person studying contextual in spirituality and the text of the good book or any book that has an attachment to a growth of a belief system will understand it through that aspect. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's all one and the same. It's all one and the same. So this is why you must study to show yourself approved. So when you study and you understand that aspect, you don't place judgment. You're able to now separate yourself from your mind to be able to watch and understand what's really happening. So now you know that you are operating in the statement that you're in the world, but not of the world. So if you understand that concept, or on the next hand, you got that awakening of consciousness, and your level of vibration and energy has shifted. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking the same conversation. So now, you heard the word now, we operate in the present. We operate in the present. See, your past has happened through your thoughts that brought about actions. So because the past have happened, you let your past fuel your present, your now, and let your present dictate your future. But you're not worried about the past, nor are you thinking about the future. You're living in the now. And when you live in the now, preparations for tomorrow will take care of itself because you're living in the now. That means that if you're in the now, if you're moving in the now, what will happen is that which you seek will happen in the now. Your joy will happen in the now. Your peace will happen in the now. Greatness that you seek can and will happen in the now. Now, when you prepare yourself, I need you guys to follow me right now. When you prepare yourself, when you start to decide, right? Think about this. When you decide that you're about to cook your favorite meal, everything in your body is allotted. All the taste buds are allotted. The organs, everything just wake up like, oh, I'm cooking that favorite favorite meal. You start salivating because why? You know that you're cooking this meal, so now you're preparing for this meal. Everything that goes into the preparation, right, for this meal, you're gathering. When you start gathering that thing or those things that you're gathering to prepare the meal, the outcome will be the cooked meal that wasn't prepared that you're preparing for. Oh, I'm hoping somebody's following me. Hoping somebody's following me. So when you're preparing something, you're gathering things. So you're gathering the salt, you're gathering the pepper, you're gathering the scallions, you're gathering all the things that comes with whatever that meal needs, the ingredients. Ooh, the ingredients that is needed to go into the meal. So because you're gathering the ingredients, sometimes, just sometimes, while we're gathering the ingredients, we go through some things. Come on, somebody. Sometimes we think we have everything in the pantry. Sometimes we believe it's in the cupboard. And sometimes we say, why don't you look in that cupboard, honey, and tell me if I have the Himalayan salt? Why don't you look in that cupboard and tell me if I have parsley? Why don't you look in that cupboard and tell me if there's thyme? And then guess what happens? When you open that cupboard, you realize it's not that easy because you're out of everything. And the only thing you got in there is some black pepper. So now you have to, I got to change it up. Somebody got to make a store run. Somebody got to make a grocery store run. Somebody got to get over there and pick up these things. And in the process of somebody going there, there has to be a preparation and a get ready to go there. And then when you're going there, you might just realize there's some other things that needs to be picked up. Now you also have to prepare for the world and the things that you have no control of on the journey to what you are trying to get done to prepare this meal. Is somebody with me? Is somebody with me? I'm hoping you guys are with me right now. Because see, here's the thing. This is the highs because you were going on a high. You were salivating. You were preparing because you know that guess what? This meal's going to be so good tonight. And because that you have to slow up because there was a slowdown. So now you're like, we can't start this meal and finish this meal this quick because we're lacking something. We're lacking something. So now we got to go to where we got to go to. But in the process of going, we don't know what hindrance, what challenges can come in the process to the destination so that we can grab those things that is needed in that recipe. Come on, somebody. This is what we call life. This is what when they say life is life. But what do? See, we operate in the power of now. See, what is the power? When we hear the word power, what is the power? When we hear that word power, what do you think about when you hear that word power? See, that word power for me is the belief. That word power for me is the desire. That word power for me, see, there is something magical that already happens when you already are thinking of a thing. The thing is that how do we control thinking? Because thinking is powerful. So how do we control it? Because if we cannot separate ourselves from the mind, then we're thinking and overthinking, and that which we think come to fruition. So we have to understand the desire and the belief in the now. That is the power. That now that I'm making the store run, that meal is done. Now that I'm going into that grocery store, I've acquired everything that I needed. It is done. This is extremely important for you to understand. This is extremely important for you to understand. Now that I have done these things, I am in the now. And because I am in the now, ladies and gentlemen, because I am in the now, I am operating in my power. So all things that I seek must come to fruition. Now, here's the thing about when you operate in the now and you have acquired everything for the recipe. And I'm hoping you guys are following me. When you've acquired everything for the recipe, ladies and gentlemen, because you just were thinking in your power of now, and you didn't say, forget it, honey, you can go get it tomorrow. Honey, don't worry about it. I'll change what I'm going to make for us tonight. You were operating in your now, because here's the thing, you were able to separate yourself and remove your ego. See, there's where I'm going right now. So when a lot of us like to say that we don't have ego, yes, we do. It is the thing that is allowing the thinking and the behavioral pattern of our lives. And my ego is big. Whoa, it's big. So I have to know it's okay with the ego, but how do I separate and control the ego and use the ego as my superpower? Come on, somebody. Use the ego as my superpower. Use it in conjunction with the now. That is why when asked to the Messiah how we should live, and he said, we should live for today, for tomorrow will take care of itself. See, what I have learned is that in all response and in all leadership, he never came from the top nor direct. He always came from the bottom. So I had to study, and I've been studying and studying. Over the last 2 months, I've been engulfed in conversation with some of my brothers and sisters across the water who are Jewish fellowships. And we were talking and just dialoguing, and we talk all the time. Prior to this, we were on some real calls and teaching. And I had to realize, I said, wow, the power of now is so powerful. Because see, when you step into a space, when you step into a room, ladies and gentlemen, when you step into any place that you go to, you are not that which someone point and say you are. You are only but one thing. You are male or female, a human male or female, because you're operating in the power of now. You're not a purple male or a blue female. You are a male or female. That's why you live for today, because tomorrow will take care of itself. When you have folded and you have concocted and the recipe was put in and it create the outcome, woo, that is what prepares the tomorrow. Come on, somebody. The power of now. The recipe that was prepared for today that brought the outcome of that which you seek today prepares you for tomorrow. So once I was diving into this study and I said, oh my gosh, look at how good my Father is. When I studied and looked at it from the physics standpoint, I said, wow, look at the teaching. There's a gentleman called Eckhart Tolle who wrote a book called The Power of Now. That's extremely important. You guys should study. And I said, look at his conclusion, talking about a higher self. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all it is when we get to a higher self is understanding how you want to phrase it. How do you see the icing on the cake? Is that icing, or is that whipped cream, or is it blue? Is it yellow? I cannot tell you how you should perceive it when you look at it. You're seeing what I believe I'm seeing, but if you see something different from I did, then guess what? I don't need to tell you that you're incorrect. What I need to do is evaluate why you have seen it in the manner of which you have. The power of now. So once we prepare ourselves, once we slow cook and work on the process, the outcome that we get today leads us into tomorrow. So then there is no thinking of tomorrow. There is no worry of the past. There is just all focus on today. Now, here is why that is so important. Here is why that is so important. When you utilize the brain, It is studied and shown fact that the brain cannot do more than one powerful thing at a time. We have this concept, oh, I'm multitasking and I'm doing XYZ. Great for you. But the reason why that statement is factual, it is the attraction that is required to bring you into the next. Ooh, I'm hoping somebody get it. The attraction that is required to bring you into the next, meaning the projection of tomorrow. But it can't happen if you're not giving all now, if you're not open for the download. The download is coming from the universe that was created for us and us for it. So, for those who may say, what are you talking about when you talk about the universe? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? When you look outside, there are trees. Those trees serve a purpose for us. The process will always take time. When the bamboo tree is planted, it is growing downward first before we see something magical happen like yesterday when it sprouts up. Because what is it doing? It is focused on the now and getting rooted so deep that when it shoots up, it's so firm, so sturdy, because it was well rooted. It was only focused on the now. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when we see success take place in front of our eyes. When we see people blow up, great things happening for them. And for those who lack the enlightenment, we then say, oh my gosh, this just happened overnight. Nothing can ever happen overnight. I'm going to say that again. Nothing can never happen overnight. The way the universe is constructed, it's constructed based on a process. There is the laws that are in place, the law of vibration, the law of attraction, sowing and reaping, the law of gravity, duplicity. There are laws, and those laws takes place based on a process. So when we see someone do this, it is because they were doing that seed time and harvest that I taught about. And when you're operating on the seed time and harvest and you centered yourself in the power of now, you open to the download that every attraction that has been centered and is giving off right now is now attracted to the person that is operating in the right now. The brain is only centered in the right now. And once the brain is centered in the right now, all the downloads of the universe is attracted to you immediately. And when that happens, it then projects the preparation because it gives you what you need now. And it projects the preparation for the following, for the next. But you're not concerned of the next. For if the next doesn't come, you're operating in the now. Guys, if you were with me, go ahead and put some sevens in the chat. If you guys were with me, put some sevens in the chat. If you guys are with me, put some sevens in the chat. Because this is important. I want to make sure that you guys got it. So when we look at the power of now, we talk about the power of today, right? Briefly, guys, today is not like anything you knew yesterday or anything you might discover tomorrow. It's not a moment you live. Listen to this really good. Today is not a moment you live, but a moment you live in right now. It's not a moment you live for. Today, it's not a moment you live for. See, a lot of us, we like to, I live for, no, you don't live for today. You live in today. And because you live in today, right now, you have to utilize the power of now that will allow you to achieve those things that you seek. Today, you will not sit around waiting for your time to come. Today, you will not worry about the future or regret your past. I need you to understand, you will live for today. So, guys, write these things down really quick. Write some things down. How do we practice the power of now? How do we practice the power of now? And I'm going to read off some things really quick for you guys. How do we practice the power of now? How do we practice the power of now? See, I believe we've summarized a few things for you guys so that you guys will have these few lessons, right? How do we practice the power of now? The first one is disconnect from your mind. Remember, I said that? Disconnect from your mind. You are not your mind. The untrained mind is a huge barrier to enlightenment and inner peace. You heard what I said? The untrained mind is a huge barrier to enlightenment and inner peace. So rather than understanding inner peace, that untrained mind, rather than understanding it, it's more important to feel inner peace. So we don't need to understand, we need to feel. Okay? We don't need to understand, we need to feel. The next one, listen to the mind. Listen to the mind. Listen to the mind. It's very important. Once you free yourself from the mind, you can observe and listen to the mind as a third party. Remember, I told you guys that? I said you free yourself from the mind. So now you're like a third party. You can listen to the mind as a third party. This separation from your mind, it makes it easier to recognize how your mind influences your life. This is extremely important. As a third party, you're able to assess and listen to your mind. You get to see how it influences your life and what to do and what not to do now. It's very important. The next thing is rise above chatter. Rise above chatter. Okay? Rise above chatter. The brain should be rested. The brain should be rested. That unceasing use of the brain often results in negative thoughts or unnecessary overthought. So sometimes people have it wrong. I'm going and going and going and going. Going and going is unhealthy. It brings about a lot of unhealthy things in our bodies. And we have so many examples in life, some of the greats that created some of the most amazing things. But guess what? We thank you, Lord, for their creation. But we lost them because they didn't rest the brain. That unceasing use of the brain often results in negative thoughts or unnecessary overthought, right? So you want to rest the brain as well, okay? Now, the next thing is the past has no power. Write that down. The past has no power. See, because most pain is self-created. Most pain is self-created, accommodated in our mind and our body. You heard that? This is where the sickness comes from. Because the pain is literally self-created. And guess where it's accommodated? It need a place to accommodate. Because pain moves. Pain is the spirit. Pain moves. We talk about it all day. The whole training by itself. So it now rests in the mind and rests in the body. And when it rests in the mind and in the body, it brings about trauma and situations that we see in our physical. I'm hoping somebody's following. So relieving, there you go. Relieving pain, relieving the hurt, right? It's important for us to relieve it, but we don't need to relive it. Because when you relive pain and hurt, it's unnecessary to live in the now. You cannot live in the now with reliving it. So you got to relieve yourself from it. Okay? Next one is be free from ego. Be free from ego. Be free from ego. See, the ego is a demanding false self. That's what your ego is. It's a demanding false self. So being free from the ego is essential to enjoying the present. Gotta enjoy the present, so you gotta free from your ego because it's a demanding self. And it's rough, ladies and gentlemen, because we all have egos and they're big. They're big because it's the thinking and the controlling. Right now, some of us, we're like, okay, I got to do this next and I got to do that next and I got to do that. Slow up. Slow up. We can't let that ego run the show. We need to use the ego as our superpower. So be free from ego. Okay. Next one is let thoughts go. Let thoughts go. It's essential for you to get it. Let thoughts go. Watch your thoughts come and go and reduce your need to react to those thoughts. Watching them come and go, reduce your need to react to them. Because once we react, we're trapped in the web. So we got to let them go. And the last one I would give you guys for this evening is no judgment. No judgment. No judgment. See, that's a key part of enlightened relationship. Is making the room full of love and peace by removing judgment from the life of your partner, others around you, colleagues, co-workers. You got to remove judgment so the room could be full of love and peace. Because once we remove the judgment, we input love. And if you input love, everyone is at peace when you input love. But judgment has to go. And ego will bring you into placement of judgment. So we got to let those things go. So no judgment. It's extremely important in how we move. This is extremely important in how we do this, how we construct our life moving from today in the power of now. Was extremely important to me because this is a practice I'm walking in. So you're getting it real time, real download, as it is being downloaded to me in my walk. I am giving it to you because it's so full, it's so fulfilling, it's so powerful. I couldn't hold it. The combustion is too much. So I have to do this, give it away. Somebody needs to hold on to this, the power of now, and receive it. Because the power of now is so powerful. I realized, I said, ooh, this is what it really means to live in faith and not by sight. This is what it really means to not be judgmental. This is what it really means to assess the unassessed and understand that which you didn't understand and perceive things in a manner that is not through your ego, but through your knowledge and understanding that will come from the wisdom of your now. It's very important. Because see, when you get that, you're moving in the now. And the now opens the door for everything now. I'm hoping somebody's following me. So right now there's folks saying out there, well, if I got to be with it now, but I got to get to work tomorrow. And right now I got to do this, I got to do that. No, worry about the now. Worry about the now. Focus on the now. Let go of the chatter. Remember, we just said that. Remove those things. Be free from the ego. The past has no power. Let's leave it alone. Disconnect from your mind. Practice these things, ladies and gentlemen. If you took those notes, practice these things and follow up with me within the next month and the next 2 months. And let me know. Let us know at the Leadership Summit. Let us know how things have been. How are you living? How are you growing? I'm elated as I see the journey my wife is on. I'm elated because why? I'm like, it's amazing when you start separating these things, because when you separate these things, the download becomes available for you. So now that means that you gain clarity. But the thing about the separation of these things, you got to make sure that as you separate it, you're preparing to put the right thing in. And that's why you got to operate in the now. And when you operate in the now, the right things will come in because you're not projecting for tomorrow. It is already going to happen if you operate in the now. And if the happening of tomorrow is that your physical being will be projected there, then you have been gifted with a new day. And if your physical being is not going to project there, then you have lived for today. And that is the way we are supposed to live our life, in the power of now. So I hope this short talk was really helpful and served you guys well. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it has been phenomenal for everyone receiving this. I hope the download comes to you. The download that I'm receiving, I hope that you guys receive it. And as you march off into this week of greatness, this week that may not be promised but we know that we're operating in a space of now. So because we're in a now, we know that we're operating in a fate and not a sight. Take control of it. Let your now be as powerful as your thoughts before thinking of the future. Operate in your now, ladies and gentlemen, and let it be such an amazing thing for all that you seek, where you're going, and what your accomplishments will be. Please check in with us here at the Leadership Summit. Let me know how this has served you guys. Write into us and let us know what you guys would like for us to teach on, and I will gladly dive into the studies if I haven't studied about it already. I love you guys. Really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you again. I know that we have shifted on time, but I really appreciate you guys. Again, I love the energy. Seek out the energy. Listen, Magic Mind, they're amazing for me. That's where my energy continue to come from. These herbs are phenomenal. So, guys, love y'all. Enjoy the rest of your day, and peace and blessings. Bye bye.